Or was that?
Up by the Arroyo de la Laguna.
Okay, I would like to. You were thinking of, but not that I'm here. I don't have a gallery. I'd like to call the regular policy committee meeting to order. Today is Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. There he is. And it's 3 p.m. So here we go. We have all of our policy committee members here, so we do have
It's
forum.
not here.
Huh?
Ted's not here.
Christine's here. Oh, Christine's here. That's right. Ted is not here. Did you say he was not going to be here? Okay. Haley, do you have another copy of the agenda? Thank you. Hey. See, I can find a. So we haven't gotten anything from Ted saying that he wasn't. Okay. Chair report. I do not have a report. I have lots of things to say about things that are on the agenda, but I don't have anything outside of the agenda. We don't have any ad hoc committees that I know of. And so let's go to committee member communications. None? Oh, okay. All right. So then we'll go to public comment. We have Laura and Crosby online. And here's Ted.
There he is.
Hi, Ted.
Present.
Yes. So do we have any, and we also have guests today. So do we have any public comment from anyone who is visiting us? Welcome back.
Just attending to see what happens.
Okay.
If anything since the last meeting.
Okay. Laura, do you or Crosby have any public comment? Nope. Hey. How about you, Christine?
I have a comment on the agenda.
Okay, great. Anything else? Nope. All right. Well, once again, I'd like to welcome our visitors and then also welcome our staff. Thank you so much for coming. After last meeting, I sent them thank you notes because it was like, thank you for being here. They do some really important stuff for us. Okay. Okay, consent agenda. We have consideration to approve the January 25th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there anything about those minutes that you all found to not be accurate, or do you need to do any edits? You want me to give you a minute? Nope.
I'll move that we approve the minute.
Okay. Do you have a second? Okay, great. You can choose whichever one. Okay. Thank you, and thank you again to our secretary, Don Howell, for making these wonderful minutes. And I have to tell you, people, since you have the times on here, other committees are starting to do this.
Oh, interesting. It saves me from having to write what people say, and it's a little more accurate.
Oh, there you go. Good.
I try not to, they'd rather not misrepresent.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's go then. Oh, do we have any public comment on the minutes? Oh, all right, good. Yes. Oh. Yeah, we already.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
Oh, we did that.
No, we
Was I-
didn't. Well, no, we had a motion, we had a second, but let's vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? No. All right, great. Okay. Okay, let's go on to regular business then. And the first one is, would you like to, should we do the CCSD owned vehicle policy first, so then you don't have to say.
If you like, sure.
Is that okay with everybody? Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with then agenda item 4B, review and discussion of the CCSD owned vehicle policy. You want to go ahead and just present the item?
I mean, just have a motion to change the arrangement of the agenda. No, you don't.
Not unless one of you said, hell no.
I guess if there was an objection.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for working on this, Mr. Green.
Absolutely. So this has been retooled as per requests that were made during the last policy meeting. Those have been edited and adopted in this latest edition. So I guess we can kind of go about it as we did last time, or we'll just kind of go line by line or section by section. Again, if you like. I think we can skip the purpose. We get down to vehicle usage general, that's section 2A. And all these areas have been edited, so I'll just start from the top. Some of them remain the same, but the majority we've kind of tweaked a little bit and edited. So section 2A, all CCSD employees are required to have and maintain a valid California driver's license. Employees shall follow all jurisdictions, laws, rules, and regulations while operating a vehicle on CCSD business. Any fines or other penalties incurred by an employee shall be the responsibility of the employee. Section B, individuals not employed by the CCSD shall never operate CCSD-owned vehicles except for individuals performing approved maintenance, repairs, and services on the vehicle.
I'm not going to ask for a comment after each one, so just raise your hand or jump right in.
Section C, if a motor vehicle accident occurs while on CCSD business, the appropriate law enforcement agency shall be contacted immediately, and every attempt shall be made to have a report completed. If the law enforcement agency declines to prepare a report, the employee shall record the name of the party contacted at the law enforcement agency, the time they were contacted, and a written report of the facts and circumstances surrounding the accident shall be completed by the employee at the earliest opportunity. The employee's report will include the contact information of all the parties involved in the accident, including vehicle descriptions and insurance coverage. The employee supervisor shall be notified of the accident at the earliest opportunity, but in any event, no later than by the next business day. The supervisor is responsible for having the accident reported to the risk manager on his or her designee at the earliest opportunity, but in no event later than by the end of the following business day or the next business day.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Does CCSD have a risk manager?
Yeah, that's me.
Put the other hat on.
Yeah, it should probably have her title on there rather than risk manager.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, risk manager, most organizations have a person that is the risk manager.
Is that part of your job description? Okay.
So we would,
Well, I think,
Administrative services
responsible-
manager,
well,
just put that in there and say.
well, and who knows if it might go to someone else.
Oh, it
So
might, yeah.
person responsible for risk management,
That would
I think
work.
is better.
Does anybody's job description say they're responsible for risk management?
It's fine.
Ms. Johnson's.
okay, person responsible.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you got a question on.
Oh, sorry, yes,
Comment.
yeah,
And that all this is detailed here. When you have an accident, sometimes your brain doesn't function well.
right.
And normally, if you have a little card in the vehicle, to fill out these comments to make sure they're covered would be more appropriate than saying, gee, oh, I forgot, what time of day was it? Or is the weather good or?
Yeah.
Maybe a form.
Right. so-
We'll tie this in later down the line. We're going to have a daily checklist
Okay.
that'll be in the vehicle. In the back of that checklist, we'll have an accident form that you fill out.
Very.
Thank you.
Section D, smoking is strictly prohibited in any CCSD vehicles.
Do you want to include vaping as well, or
I consider that smoking.
probably as well?
Gummies okay?
Language too, that's just.
What?
We can add that.
Are gummies okay or?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the one who talked about no eating
Right,
in the,
right, that's right. Well, that's right, that would be eating.
So no eating?
no,
Say no eating.
it
I
doesn't.
don't say that because sometimes they have to,
Yeah.
especially the.
Especially if they have bad breath, they
people
need to have a mint.
have a clean place where they can eat their lunch.
We want to work in vaping, the smoking as
Yeah,
well.
I would think, it seems like most places they're usually make an effort to call that out.
That's,
The children allowed one in their vehicle?
That's no will.
Yeah.
It says that someplace else.
All right, section E, all CCSD vehicles shall be appropriately marked with CCSD identification unless otherwise approved by the general manager. F, a daily inspection of each vehicle prior to use is to be performed prior to the operation of any district-owned vehicle.
And you're making a checklist, you're creating some sort of a daily checklist?
We currently have one, yeah.
Okay, great.
Another comment
sure.
says, they shall have markings unless approved by a general manager. Is there a reason why you wouldn't have them vehicles marked?
Not at the moment, even our admin vehicle, I think says admin.
Yeah, everything is marked.
That's what I was wondering about this.
I think the only
I would
vehicle
think they
that
should also be
currently
marked.
may not look marked is our fire chief vehicle or his response vehicle, but there's actually decals, so at night you can see like chief and Cambria fire.
Yeah.
They may want to send somebody out sometime to see who's hosing down their sidewalks and stuff.
Right, I mean, well, they'll come a state
Folks
and
down there,
drop it.
I had a neighbor that washed their car every 3 days in their driveway through the 2014, 2015.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Record square at least, or just right off the hose?
You know?
About 5 gallons a minute, okay.
That's the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, I talked to him a few times, but
Yeah.
didn't do any good.
Mr. Key,
Well, look, we talked about smoking prohibited in a CSD. How about, texting and or eating behind the wheel?
well, we talked about
Is
that
something
at the last,
Did we, what did we?
Yeah.
I just bring it, just.
Well,
We talked about
Actions.
It's illegal to text.
Right.
yeah,
it.
and
It's illegal, yeah.
yeah, and we're talking about, distracted driving or something like,
Distracted driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. it was.
so that's the same thing.
Okay,
I think the law, is to get the one touch on the phone.
Yeah,
yeah, it just crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's already illegal.
Probably 90% of our vehicles do have the Bluetooth where your phone will answer through.
yeah.
I mean, so that's text and everything, so you can do everything audibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hands free.
But if we want to include a caveat in there, about distracted driving or no cell phone use during it.
No, because you're no,
You
no,
got these.
Because someone kind of have to identify if you're using Bluetooth.
yeah, yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
it also gets into the weeds because there are certain, I would say, exemptions for emergency people. So
Yeah.
the chief is picking up radios while he's driving, which is the same thing as holding a cell phone. So there's certain things that under emergency operations that you'll end up doing.
Okay.
Well, it just.
And
Okay, until it-
And then to Gordon's comment, typically, we would have all the vehicles marked, but there could be an occasion where we do get a new vehicle and it's taking time to getting it marked up, but it needs to be used. So I kind of like having the caveat in there that, you know, with the approval, I can authorize Jim to operate his new truck while we're waiting to get decals installed and things like that. So it's a nice loophole that obviously wouldn't be used frequently.
Do you have a Batman sign on your car?
My Honda there pops up.
In my past practice with this, like we get new vehicles all the time, but it doesn't go out for service or operation until it is, you know, has identification on it. No CCSD owned vehicle shall be driven if it is known to be in unsafe condition. Any mechanical problems related to a CCSD owned vehicle shall be immediately reported. When using CCSD owned vehicles, employees shall not abuse the vehicle in any way. Under H, we have use of a CCSD vehicle is prohibited while on vacation or other leave, transporting family members, except for where such persons are also CCSD employees or otherwise on official CCSD business. In CCSD owned vehicles is also prohibited, except in emergency situations. Here we added transporting friends or other persons, except for where such persons are also CCSD employees or are otherwise unofficial as CCSD business. And CCSD owned vehicles is also prohibited. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But that language is necessary there. When utilizing a CCSD or privately owned vehicle for travel, the vehicle may be used to attend meals and other activities directly related to the training, conference, or other travel function.
Yes.
If you have a privately owned vehicle, you can take it where you want. What you're asking for there is reimbursement for attending that meeting.
So you don't get,
Oh, but
you don't get reimbursement there. You get reimbursement to and from.
So that's what it says for travel. Privately owned
Attend
vehicle.
meals and
Well,
that's it.
I have a question, and I think I asked this last time. It's a capital T. So you have do you have a travel definition?
Oh,
Yeah, just noticed that too.
Oh, that's.
Is
I
it
think
just a
we did.
typo?
no, I think there is something that defines travel somewhere.
Yeah,
I've seen it. So
Travel policy.
We have
probably need a
travel
reference.
policy.
Yeah.
So maybe there'd be a cross reference to the travel policy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe just in parentheses. See travel policy, whatever the number
Whatever
is.
that.
we could include that as an attachment. And also
So that too.
That'd be great.
If you go to these meetings, do you not have to have approval prior to going?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I said. Didn't indicate that. It said if you're going to use it. Then you said just take off.
The travel policy almost certainly requires
Yeah.
that you get approval
No,
from a
I agree
supervisor.
with that. I'm saying what it states.
Yeah.
So we'll have a policy.
yeah, we'll
Okay.
reference the policy then.
Okay.
Or we can have it as an attachment.
Okay.
All right, vehicle usage and commuting under section 3, letter A, in order to provide as prompt of a response as possible for emergency situations, CCSD employees on standby and whenever else it is deemed necessary by a department manager shall use a CCSD vehicle for travel between the employee's home and place of work. During times of use, the employee's personal use of the vehicle is limited to direct commuting and de minimis personal use. Such use is limited to necessary tasks of short duration and shall be fully minimized.
Question.
Yes.
I'd like to have the public comment.
Shall we have public comment before the end?
At this
You
point,
want it at the end, that's the.
You know what? Just go ahead and let's hear it.
be appropriate.
Go ahead.
I suppose that whole section be changed to no CCSD vehicle shall leave the district except on CCSD business. All emergency equipment shall remain in the district so that it shall be available at all times to respond to CCSD emergencies. My concern about this is that urgently needed CCSD emergency equipment is leaving the district on non-district business overnight. Cambria is subject to emergencies that require this district-owned equipment to be available. Past earthquakes have disrupted travel on highways 46, 41, and 1. The district's emergency equipment should never leave the district. I was shocked when I heard that this was happening. This is a huge risk to the district. And there's other considerations as well, but that alone is just unacceptable.
See, I would argue that it's a greater risk not to have that immediate attention. If you're having to go 5 miles to the plant and back for a south end of town.
Have someone drive the truck over there and then the employee.
You've got one operator on call and it's midnight. Who are you gonna wake up and have you meet with the truck?
Yeah, as someone who lives here, by the way.
Yeah, you. General manager. I mean, this is the idea that this equipment could be, is now unavailable. and in an emergency could be extremely difficult to access. I just can't believe that that's even considered.
Okay.
So
I mean, so that's industry standard wide. So you're gonna have several calls, say the scenario which has
No,
happened
you're
recently.
gonna have the emergency equipment that belongs to Cambria and is needed for emergencies is going to be in Cambria.
with the same issue with, because we don't have staff after hours in the district, short of the one operator.
Correct.
And so if we needed those to respond with those trucks, the same issue with travel because of an earthquake would be the same issue for our staff to get here to man those.
Absolutely. Yeah. It certainly would.
Put somebody else.
Just one moment.
Go away from.
But at least they wouldn't have the equipment with them.
Yeah,
How about last March 9th when the wastewater plant was
One moment.
flooded around it and you couldn't get equipment in or out of there? Then what do you do?
I understood that you were working on the flooding problem. Hopefully, this is not going to be a continuing issue for.
For flooding? As soon as you turn on that flood pump at the north end of town, Windsor washes out.
Oh.
That leaves your only ingress and egress.
Then
That's just
park
Fellini
it on the
Ranch.
hill. I mean, this is incredible to me that you think that that's a defense.
One moment. Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Just dump all
You know, I'm sorry, but not only,
Yes, yeah.
not only do I agree with.
Who's this? Wait a minute, we need to stop. Okay. Okay. You wanna, introduce yourself because not everybody knows.
Sure, Rich DeVega, Cambria resident. So this whole argument about storms and emergencies is kind of over the top, okay? A storm emergency, such as the flooding on Main Street, is a predictable emergency. It's totally fine, in my view, if you have been forewarned, if the area has been forewarned that atmospheric storms are coming and we could have severe flooding and so on. Great, you prepare for that in advance. And so if you want vehicles to go home that day before it's supposed to happen, 2 days before even, fine, okay? But to have them go home 365 days a year because we might have a flooding incident, okay? When first of all, we have probably 8 months of the year with zero rain, okay? And then a rainy season that is predictable. Severe storms are predictable. The last meeting, the Main Street emergency was brought up. Another fallacious, false argument. That happened during business hours, okay? So people were here. Now, the 5 minutes to get the truck or something, come on. These people are 45 minutes away with the vehicle. Call this what it is. It's a fringe perk, okay? It's, you want to give people something more than the $35, I think you said it was a standby stipend or something. So you give them a free vehicle to commute with, and call it what it is, okay? And give them a vehicle, if that's what you want to do. It's a taxable benefit. And the district buys some cars, I guess, you know, it sends cars home. And personally, nothing personal. Management taking them home, I don't get it all. We have the highest compensated people who are not the worker bees, not saying they can't be the worker bee if they have to be, but they're not routinely considered the worker bee, and they have this tax-free perk. 36,000 or whatever I said in the last meeting, 36,000 plus for gas, 22,000 miles of vehicle for commuting miles. We are burning up our vehicles on commuting, okay? 5 years, 100,000 miles, commuting miles on any truck that's doing that commuting. That's outrageous. And the last thing I would say, you talk about industry standard. Well, I don't consider us normal, okay? You usually have a utility that the people live within the service area. They might not live in Cambria, but they live within the service area. None of these people live in the service area. Okay, you take home a PG&E truck, you might have to go anywhere for PG&E.
Right.
You take home a CCSD truck, you're going to service CCSD. Water and wastewater predominantly physically here in town. I guess water you might have, and maybe wastewater, you might have a call within the service area. But it's never a call in Tascadero, Templeton, Paso Robles, Morro Bay, Cayucas, or wherever the hell these people live. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I too, if this is a perk for our employees and that encourages them to be good employees, arrange something, buy some low, hybrid vehicles for them to drive. If this is an important part of their compensation, I'm not trying to, cut back on that. I just think it's terrifying to have this equipment some other place when we have an emergency.
The truck that they take home is not the only vehicle that has this emergency, but redundantly stocked, because you know, these
Well,
vehicles.
that's very comforting,
Yeah.
but I still don't, a truck with emergency equipment on it is not a commuting vehicle. That is just unacceptable.
Yes.
It might help because it seems to me there's at least two different topics here.
There are.
And I think for discussion, and maybe not at this particular thing, but one is the issue of emergency vehicles. And so those are very specific, the Vector truck. We're not talking about passenger cars. We're not really even talking, no, wait, I'm not finished. We're not talking about even pickup trucks. We're talking about the specialized vehicles. So that discussion is legitimate. I think the staff's concerns are very legitimate, but it would be more productive to deal with that as a separate issue as opposed to this other issue of commuting with commuting policy. Using non-emergency vehicles are two separate issues here. And I'm not sure it's productive to discuss both of them at once, and I'm not sure it's productive to discuss it at this time.
So this is, I don't want to argue the point. I just, what is the right venue
Oh,
for the appropriate use? Whatever the word appropriate means, we would have different opinions. If it's not this committee, I would ask and just ask. So where does the policy get set if it's not here? As to
Well, the
what's
policy,
allowable use,
Yeah, the
not in
policy-
terms of eating and stuff.
the policy actually, and I'm talking about not a policy, I'm talking about the policy, like the theoretical policy of commuting vehicles. Okay, is a decision for the board. It's not a decision for this committee. In fact, once we have this policy where we want it, it actually goes to the board. And the board can say, yeah, no, here you go. So,
This policy doesn't address it one way or the other.
right,
that's correct.
right. So that is something that should be on the board's agenda in the future, perhaps. Yes.
Is the vehicle use, is that addressed in the union contract?
Don't believe so.
No.
Yeah,
Okay, if it was, then we wouldn't be able to sort of
Right.
unilaterally.
Right.
Yeah, so to clarify on some of the things that Jim and I have been talking about. Our superintendents, after the robust conversation we had last time, the superintendents with their vehicles not currently outfitted with the definition for the IRS with the boxes and the,
Right.
dumps or
The utility beds.
utility beds. We've talked that superintendents will not be using those vehicles to go home, even though that's been a past practice. However, our belief is because of our aging infrastructure within the district, regardless of whether or not our Main Street emergency happened during the day, those what we consider catastrophic events are going to continue to happen. It's not just flooding. We're going to have major breaks within the district during off hours.
You're gonna have PG&E outages.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the PG&E outage where you get alerted, but the pump at 500 gallons a minute is pumping out raw sewage?
Right.
You now have a spill. You now have an SSO.
Right.
That's a notice of violation. Often attached with notice of violations are tens of thousands of dollars of fines.
Oh, yeah.
So one event could set you back 50 grand.
And-
So I don't know if that's not worth 20 or 30 grand to you.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is,
Well,
And then that also.
Yeah, I just want
okay. Hey,
I'd like to finish.
I'm gonna stop and let our
So-
general manager.
Yeah, so that, intimate knowledge of what's going on in the district, specifically Jim, our wastewater superintendent, our water superintendent. You know, we have significant threats within the community on aging infrastructure, these pumps that are operating, sewage spills, notice of violation. And our position is that while we agree that the superintendents, those managers, those can be avoided from being taken home, it is our on standby, on-call operators that are going to save the day. I understand the position of this committee and some of the public comment in terms of the cost. Eventually we'll be moving to EV vehicles, you know, when that opportunity arises. But their ability to respond swiftly into the district at all times and go immediately to the threat versus going to the yard, swapping out, getting keys and going is important to us. And we believe it's a high priority and worth the investment. The other piece of it, which we haven't addressed, is the chief vehicle. The chief vehicle needs to go home with the chief because he's not responding just to this area, but he's on auto way to the rest of the county. So he is an entirely different situation and he is an emergency vehicle. And so he needs to have that vehicle with him because he's going to be an incident commander on large scale events that can pull him into different areas of the county. We have agreements and understandings throughout the county of San Luis Obispo. He can find himself in Napomo. So that's one piece of it. But as far as the two operators for standby, I believe that is a worthwhile investment for the safety of our infrastructure. And it is getting older by the day. And these are planned emergencies, like Mr. DeVega said. We know they're coming. We don't know when they're coming.
Yeah. I
Sometimes
don't-
trees fall on fire hydrants.
We got
Yeah.
hands up.
That was my.
Well, I'm not, we need to let the general manager finish and you let me know when you
I'm
want.
good.
Okay, so, okay, but
I just have,
can I just say something first? It makes me uncomfortable when people say things that appear that they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. One of the things that, I mean, yes, the water main break, you know, downtown was huge, but I don't know if all of you have read the reports of what happens on a daily basis here. I think the committee members may have more information about that. And I'm not sure that you've read that kind of stuff because exactly what Mr. Green said about a spillage, those are
I
emergencies.
appreciate that,
Yeah,
but 45 minutes away is a problem.
okay, so, okay,
Don't you think?
well, I'm gonna interrupt you again because I was really nice to you at the last meeting and I let you speak whenever. We need to be really careful because, no, that's not what I'm saying.
I know you.
Yeah,
I know you.
okay. So anyway, I think, the things that you're saying, it's really good to hear them. I'm not sure that you know all the background information. So based on that, I'm gonna take questions and statements from committee members, and then we're gonna go back to what we were doing. Okay?
And then once that's done, Jim might be able to provide some context on our on-call operators and the region in which they live. Because I think while we did have some superintendents that were a little further
Yeah.
into the North County, Santa Margarita area, I think our on-call operators, for the most part, are a little bit closer than the 45 minutes.
Yeah, two out of, so there's 4 shifts for water and 4 shifts for wastewater for the month, right? Each gets a on-call of a week. There's only 2 operators right now that live in, over the 46.
okay.
Yeah.
So 2 out of the 8 shifts.
2 out of 8.
So Richard, your actual calculations are just a little bit skewed off of that, based on that, but. yeah.
Okay, Mr. Keith.
Okay, so this is just a question of clarification. What specific equipment, in other words, if I'm having to respond to something like like a spill like Jim's talking about, what types of equipment is on these trucks that couldn't be put into another vehicle that would maybe
A more economical vehicle.
a more economic vehicle? That's my question. I mean, what, and you'll have to tell me because I don't know.
Sure, absolutely.
What is on one of these utility trucks that makes it that imperative to have all that equipment on site immediately, because I see what you're saying, I do. But I'm just thinking, how can we save some mileage on these vehicles? How can we reduce our fuel costs?
Absolutely. So there are shut-off tools, what we call street keys, curb keys. So there's some of our valves are, 8 foot below the surface. So it's this huge, long, 70-pound street key. And that's one of the larger pieces. Some of the wastewater vehicles for those lift station operations where we might lose power, PG&E, they keep some electrical tools on there, a megameter. So that way we can kind of diagnose if it's PG&E problem, if it's our electrical problem. So tools of that nature, some of the larger tools that only really fit in the back of the truck bed, and then some of the smaller hand tools that we lock up in cabinets and so forth.
And I'm gonna extend what Jim's saying. The CCC vehicles have a flashing light on the top. They're also big. So if somebody hits them in the night and you have that protection that you wouldn't have if you were in a small vehicle. We're also carry traffic cones with us, which tend to be on the larger side, so we can set out, to keep people out of the raw sewage as it's coming out of the manhole, or to keep people to notify other motorists of the stop vehicle in the middle of the street while you're out there turning the water valve.
So what I'm hearing is that the type of equipment that's located in these utility trucks basically requires a utility truck to carry all this stuff. Is that what I'm understanding?
Or at least a pickup size bed.
A pickup size.
Something that you can get a 6-foot key in.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they telescope so they get longer, but the minimum on it is a 6-foot key, so it's a heavy object. I mean, we can segue into.
Let me just say this, I mean, okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Ms. Worthing, you had a question.
I just have a question and that is, why would you have somebody report on an emergency that lives 45 minutes away? I hate to beat this up, but I don't understand why you would choose someone who lives so far away to be the emergency responder. Do you have a lack of employees? Can you only find people that live out of our area? I mean, maybe you could answer that, or the district manager could answer that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Cambria is very expensive to live in, and so while our staff, management staff is compensated well, we do negotiations with the union, but to afford to live in Cambria or anywhere close, it's very expensive. Average median household or the median cost of a house, I think, for the county is in the 7s or 8s. So those that can afford to live in this county are often at our current staff level or living out of the area. And so with the limited amount of staff that we do carry, we run pretty lean as a department. So we take those that are available for on-call, and we can't always use our employees that live the closest because they would be on call all the time. So we have to spread out those on-call shifts, and some of those are spread out to those that live further away, and that's where they can afford to live.
And I had one quick question. If somebody took their personal vehicle, used their personal vehicle to come to work, it would, and then they kept the key in their pocket or on the keychain, they'd go into the yard, they'd get into the emergency vehicle and then go to wherever it is. I mean, if I live next to the sewer plant, so I mean, all they have to do is go through the gate, get the truck. I don't understand what emergency would be so critical that, and you got a guy coming 45 minutes. So what's another 5 minutes for him to get the other vehicle? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
That is a
that's
problem.
understandable. If you don't really understand water and wastewater and the amount of sewage that can spill in 5 minutes.
Oh, I understand that, but if the guy's taking 45 minutes to get here, what difference is it if he has to take some 5 more minutes to get the vehicle? I mean,
It's significant.
I don't-
Significant damage.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
significant
45
violation.
minutes is too long already, let alone the extra 5 minutes, so.
That's the nature of having on-call personnel and living in an area in which not all staff can afford to live.
But if something's that critical, maybe you should respond to it, or
Sure, I'll
Mr.
come from
Green
DG,
should
which is
respond
about
to
10
it.
minutes.
Well, you don't live here, so, you don't live here either, I don't. Well, there are places to rent here, so.
Okay, just go ahead. Go ahead.
This
Just ask a
topic, I
question.
Yes.
think, is very important, actually.
Yes.
And both Mr. De Vega and Ms. Heinrichs
Yeah.
both have excellent points,
Yeah.
as do everyone here.
Right.
But it seems to me that this is a rather bigger
Yes.
and probably worthy of discussion, but it might be better as a separate agenda item at another meeting specifically to let people know what our emergency procedures are and what our equipment is and what concerns that members of the public have, and just have that as a separate agenda item,
Or,
rather than try to squeeze it all into this.
or it can be brought up at the strategic planning workshop, because
That's all.
it is an issue where, I mean, when we put down some of the things that are external, the external factors that have an effect on what happens with CCSD, the fact that people can't live here is one of those things. So we can bring that up at the strategic plan. Yes.
If there were some committee members that were interested in pursuing this, maybe you could appoint an ad hoc committee to come up with some recommendations and bring back to the full committee if people want to chew on this some more.
With recommendations for a policy?
Yeah, on how to deal with the perfectly reasonable and legitimate needs of the district to have people to get here when there is an emergency.
So outside of
And
this
also
policy.
deal with the perfectly reasonable consideration that it costs a boatload of money to do that.
Yes.
A moderate boat, maybe a schooner full of tea rather than like a. super-
Do we have interest for people to be on that ad hoc? We can't have more than two.
I have 3 here.
Oh, you can have 3 because we have 6.
4.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Okay, just a minute. Does anybody have an interest in being on an ad hoc committee to address commuting?
I can work with him actually.
If there is an interest, so one of the things I was thinking, if there's an interest in an ad hoc, I mean, obviously, this is gonna be a board policy decision.
Yeah.
At what point can we work on this policy to at least get it in front of the board for the discussion? Because obviously, this is an advisory committee.
Right.
So at some point, it's gotta move forward to the board to have that larger, robust discussion.
Yeah, I think it's a separate issue. I think what Donna is saying is that it's a separate issue from here. And I still believe that there are things that people don't understand and don't know about the goings on for staff at CCSD that may have an impact on how you address this issue.
And that's what an ad hoc committee could dig into.
Exactly.
Just gonna-
Yes.
One more thing. that's
Okay.
all. Looking at the EV trucks that are available even right now,
Right.
is it inconceivable that such an EV vehicle could not be outfitted to handle this situation?
They absolutely could.
Well, that would do 2 things. One, it would identify the vehicle that your on-call person is going to drive home and back. And 2, it would eliminate, the fuel consumption, because the fuel consumption in those utility vehicles is pretty bad. So, I'm just trying to say, how can we reduce our CO2? And even do it right now?
So that's a great topic. That's something that Tristan and I brought to R&I a little bit to touch on. 2024, the January 1st started, this ACF, Advanced Clean Fleet regulation. So district our size, the municipality our size, half the vehicles that we purchase that are large vehicles, like these class 1 trucks,
Right.
this year have to be ZEV,
Okay, wow,
yeah, zero emission vehicles.
okay, well, now we're getting there.
Right.
And so we've also recently, before this was enacted, before they were readily available, we've kind of purchased trucks already.
We did.
So the financial feasibility of replacing them early is something we'd have to look at. I don't know if fiscally that would be the most responsible at the moment, but we're working towards that.
I'm just posing this question because these vehicles are out there and, to me, as much as anything, it's about the CO2 that's being pumped out of it.
Yeah, and that's on our radar and we're planning for it.
Plus the cost, I mean, the cost to run an EV vehicle is gonna be considerably less
Okay.
running on these utilities.
Okay, so,
But I'm just putting that out there.
yeah, so this is what I'm gonna say. Let's finish this policy. Let's talk about near the end of the committee meeting about whether or not we want to do an ad hoc. And if so, what would be the narrow focus of that ad hoc committee? All right?
Scope.
Yes.
Sure, Scott. One thing that perhaps you, President, Gray, and myself can talk about in agenda review. Perhaps we put this on an agenda
Yeah.
for the board to redirect it backwards after
Yeah.
we have the discussion.
To ask for a
Guidance.
focus, yeah,
That'd be a good idea.
yeah, sound good. All right? Okay, where are we?
We're section 3 still.
Okay.
Item B. The personal use of a CCSD owned vehicle is a taxable fringe benefit subject to income and employment taxes. Personal use includes commuting to and from work. The value of the fringe benefit must be included in the employee's wage or reimbursed to the CCSD by the employee. The CCSD has determined that it is in the CCSD's and employees' best interest to use the commuting rule to determine the value provided to employees. Under this rule, the value of the commuting cost of the vehicle provided to the employee is determined by multiplying each one-way commute, that is from home to work or work to home, by $1.50. If more than one employee commutes in the vehicle, this value applies to each employee. A control employee cannot use the commuting rule. Control employees for government employers are either elected officials or employees whose compensation equals or exceeds the amount for a federal government executive level 5. For these employees, the annual vehicle lease value, if the employee is provided a vehicle for 30 more days of continuous use, or daily lease value, if the employee is provided a vehicle for less than 30 days of continuous use, methodology shall be used.
I have a question. So how many personal use CCSD owned vehicles do we have that, where this is the case?
Isn't the answer none now?
Yeah,
So I think now it's time.
Okay.
So John Alchin
Okay.
and Jim were the water, wastewater and water superintendents respectively. I think
Okay.
it would have been a different conversation, but
yeah, okay.
Interesting.
That's right.
I'll just throw in a caveat. When Jim was hired and John was hired, again, previous leadership, that was something that was negotiated with them outside the scope of any policy, employment agreement. That is how they recruited
Right.
them to come to this district and work.
Right.
And they were both experts in the field and they still are, they're doing a great job. But that was under previous leadership. That was a part of the recruitment process to bring folks in. Right or wrong, that's the way it was. When we promoted Jim and we promoted our two new superintendents, that discussion continued about how we're gonna end that process.
And I think that's something that the board should know
Sure.
when they make a decision about this policy.
The commuting rule is an IRS policy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
it's,
$1.50 is, wildly undervalued. If that's what the IRS says, it really doesn't make any difference. Put it at $20, it wouldn't make much difference.
Yeah, and that dollar figure is still current.
Right, okay.
okay,
Well, it's compared, because I have Irish background.
okay, but you,
It's compared to
Okay.
50-something cents a month.
Rich,
That's
Right.
Rich,
Right.
you need to raise your hand and you need to ask to say something. Thank you.
Yes, section C, use of a qualified non-personal use vehicle is considered a working condition benefit and is not taxable to the employee under any circumstances. CCSD owned vehicles considered to be qualified non-personal use vehicles include clearly marked fire vehicles, any vehicle designed to carry cargo with a loaded gross weight of over 14,000 pounds, tractors and other special purpose farm vehicles, and vehicles provided for water and wastewater on-call operators. Section D, the value of personal use of CCSD owned vehicles will.
So I'm so sorry.
Sure.
We talked about this and Rich and I had a conversation about it. Do we need to identify in there, the section for qualified specialized utility repair trucks? Because that's the one section that covers our pickups, because they're not the 14 gross. But it has, specially mounted toolboxes and things like that, which qualifies under this section, right?
Right.
So
So we want to
maybe,
use that language.
I
yeah,
was thinking maybe we want to add that language in there.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Doesn't it already say vehicles provided for water and wastewater on-call operators? I mean, those are the only people that take vehicles home, right?
Yeah, I just thought we might want to cite the
Yeah.
IRS
As cited.
regulations.
Okay.
It
Cited
would
in-
tie that in there,
Yeah.
because I actually had to go look up the 1.274-5 to actually find the definition of the qualified specialty, and then
So you
it
can just
outlines
add
it
that.
later on. But it might clean up the policy a little bit better.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
so they know that's
Yeah.
what our water, wastewater vehicles fall under.
Okay. Hey,
Sorry to interrupt.
no, it's
Thank
okay.
you, I appreciate it. D, the value of personal use of CCSD owned vehicles will be included in an employee's biweekly pay if the commuting rule is to be used to arrive at the value. If the annual lease value or daily lease value method is being used for evaluation purposes, the value of personal use of CCSD owned vehicles will be included in the employee's second biweekly pay in each month for the previous month. In cases where a department manager uses a CCSD owned vehicle for personal use, approval from the general manager is required. For all other employees, the number of days that a CCSD owned vehicle is used by an employee where personal use is involved shall be noted on the employee's biweekly timesheet. Finally, section F is if an employee is eligible to use a commuting rule to arrive at the value of personal use and they elect to reimburse the CCSD for the personal use rather than have it added to their wages, reimbursement must be submitted with their biweekly timesheet.
So, under section 3. Yeah, section 3. I'm wondering if that becomes the focus of an ad, and that we take it out of this policy. But what do you think?
Pull this out and then have the ad hoc shoe on it? Sure.
And in the meantime, we'll put it on the agenda for the board to direct us to do that.
I would, think that it would be good to have at least one person from staff to be a part of that ad hoc.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So that there can be
yeah.
some institutional knowledge that goes into that.
Because what you said is nobody's doing this.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
nobody's doing this. So this should not be part of this policy.
I would agree.
Okay. And then we can possibly approve the rest of the policy to go to the board.
Looks like.
Does that make sense?
As it stands, sections 1 through.
1 and 2.
Excluding 3.
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
To give the language.
Yeah.
Correct. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does that make sense to everyone? Do I have a motion?
I have one question.
Sure.
Did we decide to put Haley as a risk
Yes.
manager person? That's the one change to that?
Yes.
Okay.
The person who is responsible for risk management. And then on section 2I, we are going to add the travel policy.
Yes.
Yeah, as an attachment.
In
Yes.
section,
So the one thing I didn't quite understand that may mean why you can't take that paragraph out is what are you gonna do now with the supervisors? I know
The
it sounds like you're still
supervisors,
gonna have a vehicle, but it's not gonna be a heavy truck.
no, they're not, they don't have it,
They have a vehicle, but they won't be commuting home.
Right.
in it. Just our on-call operators.
yeah.
So not even a non-repair truck because I thought you said you have some benefit that you've put into their
No, that-
contract.
No,
But no, it's not in their contract.
it was a verbal agreement
Yeah.
from a previous general manager when they recruited and hired on to the management staff,
Sounds like something.
the
we did that.
superintendents, that they would have a to and from home.
Yeah.
Are we not gonna
Very
honor
good.
that?
Uber.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not, it was
We're
a
gonna-
verbal,
We're gonna ask the board is what we're gonna do. We're gonna ask the board, what do you wanna do with this?
Yeah, I'm not
Because,
arguing against
yeah,
honoring. I'm saying
because
if
I-
you do, then you
yeah,
need that paragraph.
but but we don't for this policy.
And those two that were offered that don't exist in those positions anymore.
That's
So
been renegotiated for the position.
kind
It
of,
was never in any documentation. It was just like, go ahead and take that vehicle home and, you know, they would respond if necessary, which they did at times, but it's infrequent. And then Jim was promoted. We had one retirement, so our new younger superintendents came in and that discussion wasn't had. It's not a part of our payment compensation plan. It's not a part of any employment agreement. Just, it
and if the board wants to do that, that's up to the board. That,
it would have to be put in the payment compensation plan. We have to come back to closed session and do that.
Yeah.
So,
but I think rather than muddy this, that's a way to do that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Go ahead, yes.
A comment, Jim mentioned about a checklist or something that committees into this. Was that not mentioned in here? Is that something that's going to do?
The checklist is mentioned under section 2F. A daily inspection of each vehicle prior to use is to be performed prior to the operation of any district-owned vehicle.
And you said you were going to have a checklist, but you say it's not a checklist over there, it's just it shall be inspected.
Well-
What you were saying.
We actually have a checklist.
Well, and how they do that, it's beyond this policy.
What I'm saying is, daily inspection would be a section checklist. Asking there is.
A daily inspection, I think a daily inspection is better than a checklist because then people do check marks and they don't do an inspection.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine, I thought you mentioned that at the end. Somebody mentioned.
okay, so,
Okay, we can add that language in.
okay,
We'll just put,
or maybe even add it as an addendum to the policy so that
A
people.
daily inspection per the vehicle checklist shall be performed.
Okay,
or per department policy. 'cause
Per
each
department, you do one.
yeah.
Fire department does it.
I like that.
Oh, they have different checklists. Okay, so don't put it as
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, that's the execution of it.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll step up and do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I move that. Should there be a number to this policy?
If, once it becomes a policy, then there will be a number assigned.
So I just say, I move that the CCSD owned
Wait.
vehicle lines, sorry.
oh,
Oh,
No.
we have none here. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment?
Public comment, of course, sorry.
Just thought I'd ask, I didn't know.
Yeah.
That was on
No.
line that.
We had a lot of public comment on.
Oh, I know that.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave them out.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, all right, that the policy known as the CCSD owned vehicle policy, the sections 1 and 2 as presented in our packet, I'll figure out some way to push it.
Okay,
With minor editorial changes, we recommended to the board for adoption.
and those changes are,
Okay.
you want me to say them?
Sure, why not?
Okay, under section 2C, risk manager will be person who is responsible for risk management. Under D, smoking and vaping is strictly prohibited in any CCSD owned vehicle. Section 2I is that we add the travel policy as an addendum to this policy, and that we remove section 3 to be discussed at a later time. Yes, okay. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? All right, good. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, let's go then to agenda item 4A. Thanks so much, guys. 4A, this is the review, discussion, and consideration of the draft CSDA policy 1045, legal counsel and audit. And you have the current policy with some edits that we suggested from our last meeting. And then we also have comments from our vice chair, Gordon, who has given us some suggestions. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at?
I looked at the policy, I didn't see Gordon's suggestion.
No, I didn't get this until after the policy, after I posted it.
In the handout.
Yeah, that was afterwards.
Okay.
Now, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and describe what you have in your handout? That sound good?
Well, I agree with everything that we did last time. If there is one comment, it says legal counsel shall present and report monthly during BOD meetings on all legal issues and the closed session. And that's sort of where it stops.
So this is, yeah, where is it in the policy?
Let's see.
Just tell us.
Oh, it's the last.
The last sentence of.
Oh, last.
It's the last sentence.
Okay, there it is.
So what did you want to do?
Closed session items before the board.
Issues
That's what I have an issue.
and okay.
So what I suggested by doing some
Issues
research
and-
on line and other areas, to find out what closed session more or less mean. That's why the handout. I came to the conclusion of a statement that closed session meetings, item numbers, topic descriptions, and all disclosable information listed on the board of directors agenda prior to the closed session meeting, and a written report after the closed session meeting to the public for the status details of any action taken in the closed session, with the vote and or abstention on that action of every member present.
And you said written report?
I had it written.
Oh,
Report to finally get this out of the oral, something to report. This is unacceptable, no,
okay.
and so on.
So you want written in there?
Meetings and a written report after the closed session. Theoretically, you have the option of oral or written, it says in the,
Yeah, underneath the double line here is the Brown Act.
these are things that,
Yeah, this is all Brown Act.
right, that's where I got this information. from.
Right.
Well, where does it say?
So there's different interpretations of that. And the least one you can take is an oral or written report to be furnished, period.
Where does it say that?
Well, that's in one of their, on the last page, I think.
You don't have this. You have a.
Do you want me to save it? I had to retain. Yes. Then.
No, I mean.
I have no idea where he's looking at. Oh, but, this is a separate handout though, so it's not in your agenda packet.
Yeah, where does it say written?
I'm not finding it,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything about reporting.
Well, I gotta find it again. Looks to be no on there.
Goes detailed requirement.
I got a separate handout. So your handout is the same, but it's not
Yes, it is.
complimentary. Where I picking up
Close.
positive news out of your plan.
Subscribe.
I'm not hearing what you're saying, Gordon.
She's trying to find it.
Okay.
Was this emailed to us?
Yes.
Oh, yesterday or?
Last week.
Last
Oh,
one.
Last week.
Should convene. I'm not seeing anything.
does say documentation relative to the report should be available to any person. But that's only if there's a vote.
That's right.
Yeah.
An agreement to additional documentation.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
The policy says the legal counsel shall present and report on all legal issues and closed session items before the board. It doesn't say anything about stuff that's voted on. I have never heard our current counsel provide any detail
Bingo,
on any closed session
bingo.
ever, not vote on any item that was
Oh,
discussed.
he
or anything.
always does. He always says whether or not there was a vote.
They're very
He
seldom in the
says
vote.
nothing to report.
Right.
There was no
There
vote.
was
But,
nothing.
Or no action taken.
but the
Or no
policy
action.
doesn't say vote, it says closed session items. It says shall present and report on all legal issues and closed session items before the board. It doesn't say anything about a vote.
Where are
Action
you,
taken.
where are you reading?
The last sentence, no, the second to the last sentence in the second paragraph, right at the end of the strikeout where he's required to review and approve, la, la, la.
Shall present and report on all legal issues and closed session items before the board. Yeah, and he says what they are. He says before we go in, he presents what they are, then we ask for public comment. And then when we come back, he says again what we were looking at, and then there's no then he says there's no action because there was no action. As long as I've been on
He
board.
doesn't even say there was no action, he just says there was nothing to report.
He said both. He
Yeah.
said no action was taken, or
Yeah.
there's nothing to report.
I think I found where it's in. Let's see, this additional documentation.
Yeah,
You'll find on, I don't know how this is organized. Let's see, it would be. Yeah, anyway, it's on my second page at the
Yeah.
bottom where it says.
reports down
Yeah,
here.
it says
And B.
reports that are required to be made pursuant to this section may be made orally or in writing.
That's what it is.
Okay, good. And what do you- just change the order?
Orally.
Well, that was my question, is
Question is.
it's saying that there should be a report on what was taking place that's disposable or during the closed session, that's what I interpreted. As, I mean,
This is not a report from this is well, it's unclear.
well,
Well,
sometimes you can just report an item number.
No, he reads it. He reads the
Yeah.
title of the agenda item. Cause he's really trying to be helpful. Yes,
Well, I'm just wondering
Who's
here whether.
our council.
the council.
Oh, no.
Whether there should be in here maybe some parameters, legal definitions of, what those reports, what is the expectation of the reports? And maybe if you bulleted things, we expect that, you just
Okay.
mentioned a procedure that the lawyer uses when addressing the board on specific issues. Do we need to maybe delineate a little bit further what that reporting should entail or?
Well, he
minimal
just reads, he
expectation?
reads what's on the agenda.
Okay.
And what the agenda says is what the nature of the discussion will be and the parties that are involved. That's what he reports.
Well, I don't think it's really
Yes,
Yes,
you-
I've interpreted that.
Is that enough?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I think that's where you're going.
Oh, If you want to learn about a lawsuit, you usually have to find out if the paper or other means it was being sued or something's going on, because nobody ever said what's going on. They just say, this is under litigation and it's secret.
And what are you talking about?
Okay, I have.
Okay, go, let Dawn answer your question. to somebody.
Let me dive in and see.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, in terms of how it's done now, in January 11th board meeting, the closed session says conference with real property negotiators pursuant to some government code. It talks about where the property is. It says Santa Rosa Creek Road, 2950. With an APN, and then it says who the negotiators are, the general manager and district council, Jim Carmel, and the negotiating parties are the Coast Unified School District. And what's under negotiation is a lease or easement fee purchase price in terms of payment. Now, that's all in the January 11th board agenda.
Right.
So it was a conference, it said what the item was, the statute under which it's being dealt with, who the parties are. Now, if you will go into what you looked at here under additional documentation, section A, I mean, the very thing under the double line,
Yes,
says the legislative body of any local agency shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention on that action of every member present as follows. And then it gives all the list of the reportable things.
Yeah.
Now, this is in the statute.
yeah,
I don't think we need to include it
no,
in the
in the
our
policy,
policy, because
right.
we just repeat the statute.
right.
That's in the Brown Act.
That
Well,
is the Brown Act, yeah,
Yes,
it's
the
there.
Brown Act.
So I don't know that we need to repeat it, but Gordon, the wording that you proposed, except for the written thing, which I do object to, because one thing that costs us more money, is that your wording is okay, because it basically says what I just said, mainly after the closed session meeting for the public of the status details of any action taken. Now, action means vote in that context. It doesn't mean person A says such and so. It's when the board takes action, and it only takes action by motion and vote.
Right,
Just like we only take action by motion and vote or consensus.
right.
So
And it's details of any action.
it says that. No, it doesn't say, it says here,
And
if they take a vote, but if they don't take a vote, then you're not going to hear it because they didn't take a vote. Now, I can tell you this for the things that we did when we were approving salaries or anything else, we would discuss it. But then Tim would say, now you have to go to the public
Right.
and actually hold the vote at that point.
And so the public has that document.
Yeah, so there's nothing in, but if you wanted to go ahead and say, after the closed session meeting to the public of the status details of any action taken, that doesn't contradict the statute, in the closed session with a vote or abstention on the action of every member present, as you wrote, that's in the code. But if it makes you feel better, I don't have a problem as long as it's not written. As long as you don't demand that it be written, because at $300 an hour, I'd rather not pay something that people could just listen to. And which, as you
Well,
say, doesn't really tell
And it's
you a lot.
also in the minutes.
Yeah, and it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
So, okay, I said my piece.
Yeah,
whose minutes is it in?
the board
Oh, it's
minutes.
board meeting minutes. It'll be there.
Closed session minutes, though, right?
Oh, there are no
No,
minutes.
there are
in
no
closed session.
minutes in closed session.
I don't know that.
Oh, well, now you do. There are no
That's what I'm
minutes.
trying to get.
Because they're not public. It's not
Well,
public.
That's fine. I just.
yeah, I want to just, I want to just caution us.
That's fine.
It would be wonderful. Before I was on the board, I thought, what the hell did they talk about in there? I mean, I really did.
Yeah, that's what you do.
But then, now that I'm there and I see what happens, that information, it eventually comes to the board in front of anybody in the world who wants to listen and who wants to look at that document. So let's take, for instance, the thing that's going on with the school district. There are no documents yet. So that's why nobody knows anything about it.
Just rumors.
just rumors. And
That's
that's,
fine, that's what I'm.
yeah, and that's the part,
And
For
comments from
me-
the school board.
and comments from the school board. But you know what? I'm sorry, that's their business. That's not our business.
Well, it kind of is, but
No, it's not, because,
this is part of your closed session. Yeah,
no,
never mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about what is happening. It's more of a what's happening. Nothing is public yet because there are no documents yet. So I think one of the things that we have to be really careful of is to say we want to know more, but we can't know more yet.
That's
And
why I said disclosable, obviously, the key word I was trying to,
the what?
disclosable information that's
Yeah,
suitable for public.
yeah. And it does get disclosed when it is a public document.
And then the public can comment on that.
They can comment on it, they can, listen to the discussion that's going on with the board, they can see who votes which way, what we vote for or against, yeah. So I think when you talk about, the only thing is, in the red here at the top, where you have that added, I just have a little bit of wordsmithing to do on it. What I'd like to do is legal counsel shall present and report monthly during board of director meetings on all legal issues and any closed session meeting item, topic description, and all disclosable information listed on the board of director agenda,
Period.
period.
Okay. So we did,
And then we could put in there that public comment is allowed at that point, right?
Well, that would be a board discretionary policy.
No, it's-
That wouldn't be something.
Oh, no, that's-
Well, but it
That's
helps
statutory,
people.
yeah, actually.
It helps people know that then public comment is available.
Yeah, the public has to be allowed to comment.
Yeah.
That's actually law.
Yeah.
And then,
So you wanted you said, listen to the board of directors agenda, period, and then insert something about public comments.
yeah, something about public comment.
Okay. And then when do you?
And when that would happen, that would be agenda.
Prior-
In a board meeting?
Yeah, correct. Well, it's a agenda item and public comment. It needs to be taken prior to us going into
Yeah.
closed session,
So maybe you want to identify that a little more clearly, I don't know.
that it's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's, or how public comment would be, registered with this sort of thing. I don't know.
We'll just,
I don't know if it needs
yeah.
any more clarification, but,
and then after the closed session,
And
the legal counsel will report on any action taken in the closed session with the vote or abstention on that action of every member present. So does that make sense to you?
Well, it does. One place it says,
okay.
contracts, settlements, agreements, or other documents that are fully approved or adopted in closed session must be provided at the time closed session ends to any person who has made a standing request for all documentation in connection with a request for notice of meetings, typically members of the media, to any person who makes a request in 24 hours of posting of the agenda if the requester is present when the closed session ends.
Well, that's the Brown Act.
Right,
That's in law.
correct.
So I don't think we need to put it in the policy.
And just the legal counsel,
What I'm mentioning here is that public gets to look at.
what I think, if I may, since we're speaking strictly of the legal counsel and the section you're reading, that's not the legal counsel
No.
doing it, it's the board's duty to do it. It's not his job to do that.
Yeah. But I do
mean, I don't
think,
think, can you do it?
well, I think it would be really good to then state at the end of the policy
Mhm.
that additional information is available and whatever the citation is for the Brown Act. And is the Brown Act on our, website? Yeah,
Yes.
so we could even put the,
The URL
what's it
for
called?
that page,
Yeah, the
the
URL.
URL for that
Yeah.
page.
That sound good?
So my question is,
Yeah.
contract settlements, agreements, or other documents that are finally approved or adopted in closed session must be provided at the time of closed session ends.
Right, it's,
So
No,
are they,
They wouldn't ever adopt them in closed.
No.
right, it's gonna be all in open
Right.
session.
so that's why I'm not adding
So
that
maybe
to
the-
the policy.
And then, I know we talked about public comment, things like that.
Yeah. I
Are
just
we,
want,
are we reinventing the wheel when we could just cite the Brown Act because public comment is a part of the Brown Act? When we talk about these things.
well, I wanted to separate prior to the closed session and then after.
Let's see. Where's the
So that it
required-
was clear, because he has a run-on sentence that does.
Yeah, I see it now.
Because I know, Mr. Carmel will sometimes report out after closed session, or he'll report at the next regular board meeting.
If there's anyone on,
Within 24 hours of the agenda.
theoretically, after closed session, it needs to reconvene back to open session.
and we
Discuss
It's
do,
weird. Let's see.
You just have to be there, so.
well, there has to be somebody who's, it has to be, yeah, it has to be somebody
It's fine, it's fine.
who wants to listen.
Right,
Otherwise, it's just lost words, and so it happens at the next meeting.
right, that's fine, I just didn't know the procedure, I just never was invited to stay afterwards and see what the conclusions were.
After each closed session, we'll always reconvene it open.
No.
So if we don't always reconvene in open,
Right, that's what I
then
thought.
we will
indicated.
And
report.
let's see.
Well,
There would be at the
at the
following.
At the
following,
following
right,
meeting.
yes,
That's-
and so that's reconvening.
there was-
We only reconvene if there's somebody who wants to.
That person has to be
Well,
present.
no,
at the end.
Anytime the board has something to report out, usually they reconvene immediately following the closed session.
But there are times we close closed session, we don't even open up the other Zoom link to
Right.
see if someone's waiting.
Correct.
Oh,
Like
maybe
you
we
guys did that
should.
last week. You
Yeah.
held closed session and you adjourned,
Yeah.
and then district council will report out at the next.
Following session.
On the
Regular
So
following-
even if someone was hoping for a report out,
Yeah,
they're not getting one.
well, maybe we should.
Yeah, that paragraph, maybe we should look at that a little more thoroughly. It seems like maybe we're not following it exactly.
Let me talk with, Tim.
Yeah, it'd be a good conversation. to
Yeah,
have.
let me talk with him about that.
Yeah, like this other part that Gordon was pointing out, if the requester is present at the time the closed session ends.
Right,
And this is gonna get kind of weird and perhaps contradicts some other stuff we were saying.
right.
Copies of any contract, sale agreements, or other documents that were finally approved or adopted in closed session, which normally would have to come forward, but it's
Well,
saying,
but it won't,
if the requester is present, then,
yeah, but there's not anything
let's
that's
see.
adopted.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if
Yeah.
they did. Oh, but they don't have to actually, if the documents require retyping, they don't have to do it right then. So I think they're trying to kind of cover it. It's a little bit awkward. But the spirit of it,
I really think we should open it up and, is that a problem for you?
It would just require me hanging around.
No.
yeah. Well, it's-
Well, why don't you teach him how?
I know how.
But how often would that happen?
It doesn't happen very often.
No.
Yeah, it does. And usually if they are reporting out, you guys let me know and say,
Yeah.
hey, stay for an
Yeah,
hour or whatever.
Do you wanna, since you've been so good about,
Lucky
do
me.
you wanna, do a draft for our next meeting?
I'll try to put some
Okay.
together based on what I've been hearing.
Does that make sense?
And try to cover.
It's enough to put together.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would.
yeah, okay,
So let me just rephrase something, just to
Okay.
make sure I understand. So
okay,
concern, and we've all had it, you know, when if there's gatherings secretly, we don't know
yeah,
what they're
no, we
doing.
all have felt that way.
And so, to get some clarity in some way as to what can be said
Right.
Right.
Okay, I'll try, I'll see if I can come up with
That's kind
that.
of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Yes.
Two is.
yeah, okay.
I mean, see, supposedly anybody can do the minimum. Where's the gray line of what,
Yeah,
you could maybe mention something else that should be appropriate.
well, and there's a broader question, which I don't know if it's even useful. I mean, what the statute gives is what you have to do.
Yeah,
The question is,
you don't,
and could you do more than that? But I don't know. So I don't think we're going there, but there's.
Right.
certain-
no, I don't think you can do
Yeah.
more than what the statute tells you.
Yeah.
You can do less,
We can do less.
but our board council has changed what he does.
Hmm.
What, in the last 6 months or so?
Hmm.
He's broadened it,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, what I'll do then is I'll
Then send it to me.
discuss with you a little,
Yeah,
Amy,
yeah.
and I think I can, as long as I know, Chloe.
Don't send it to anybody.
I'll send it.
So we'll look at it next month.
Okay.
Very all, I'm sure we won't.
So, I have a committee of one.
Is any public comment on this? Before we-
There's no one here and there's no one except, oh, Christine, do you have any public comment?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
yes,
I had a suggestion.
okay,
So after the next sentence there, after the legal counsel shall serve at the pleasure of the Board of
Oh,
Compensation
yes.
Services as determined by the board, I would suggest that we insert something along the lines of the following. From time to time, the board shall direct staff to prepare a request for proposals for legal services to ensure that district is being represented in the most efficient, in the most effective and cost-efficient manner.
what do you think? What's your concept that you're trying to get across?
The concept is that the legal counsel position should not be like a lifetime appointment, like a Supreme Court justice.
Yes,
And that there are probably 20 plus public water agencies in San Francisco County that are all represented by a wide variety of law firms that charge very possibly a wide variety of fees for a wide variety of effectiveness. And given that the district is supposed to operate in the most cost-effective manner possible, on occasion, the board should ensure that we actually are getting the most bang for our legal buck.
so tell me again and let's write this down.
Okay, from time to time, and that could, you can put in a year, but just from time to time, the board shall direct staff to issue a request for proposals for legal services to ensure that the district is being represented in the most effective and cost-efficient manner.
I like that.
I mean, we spend a lot of money on legal fees.
Yeah.
And maybe we could spend less and get the same quality of results. We don't know because we don't ask.
Do we ask?
Do we?
Do we ask? And didn't we have that information
Ask him,
last
ask him,
time?
ask him.
Yes.
Nobody ever questions it.
So I'm gonna pull up, Carmel
Yes,
McCosh's,
yeah,
contract.
this is important because we do look at that.
Did you wish?
We do look at what costs are and what other like entities charge.
Well, there's never been any information given to the public that I'm aware of, that there's been
I think
anything
it was
like
part
that.
of the staff report.
And
So we're pulling up his.
If you did a
his
request for
contract,
proposals,
there's
then
an
that would be a
didn't.
public,
Yeah, we did.
that
do a
would be a
request.
public thing, and then that way anybody, any legal firm could respond to that as opposed to just firms that district staff reached out to.
No, this was, well, go ahead.
So the board would direct us, in my opinion, the board would direct us if they wanted to fly an RFP.
And that's what you
So
said.
the district attorney works for the board, staff has
Right.
nothing to do with any
Right.
selection of
Right.
district.
Right.
Council, council.
Right.
So, I'm gonna stay as far away from that as possible. I can tell you from my perspective is, our current council is good, very knowledgeable and has a lot of historical knowledge about our district, specifically our water issues. And so, if the board wants to.
You just said that we can give anything.
But we don't have anything to compare that to.
Well, we did,
We've never asked
right?
the general legal community to provide a proposal to provide legal services. And at what cost they would charge to provide those legal services. I don't think that's ever happened since I've been.
Have we ever had
paying
an
attention.
RFP for legal services?
Not during my tenure.
No.
I think the last time they had someone different was in 2015.
Was Montana, right?
I mean, the board members need to compete for their position every 4 years.
That's true.
I mean, that's dialogue with the board should
Yeah.
have, and the board discussion about,
Yeah,
Well, didn't we just recently,
we just.
We approved Tim's agreement
Or-
last June.
yeah, for how long?
It doesn't have a term,
Oh,
it said that we can terminate within 90 days.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna, let's put this sentence in there. I'm sure you got it.
Yeah, I think.
Would change the staff part.
Oh, but take off this.
The legal person will
Well,
take that
somebody's
out.
got to write the RFP. The board members typically don't write requests for.
The board
But I
shall,
thought the wording was direct staff from time to time.
The board would direct staff
To
to
do
prepare the RFP. Somebody's got to do the drafting, writing it up. And you don't want the
But
district council doing that.
doesn't he? Does he do an RF, does he do RFPs?
I wouldn't think,
Or
it
do
might be a conflict.
I mean, do you guys?
He's like, I prepare some RFPs.
Yeah,
For the district, like the fire hazard bill reduction.
Yeah.
RFP,
yeah,
Along with the fire chief.
yes.
yeah, I mean, I think this is a very viable question or a very viable thing to put in this policy. And again, we're the advisory.
Sure.
You know, this is gonna go to the board.
Yeah.
The board's gonna look at it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna decide whether that has merit or whether it doesn't have merit.
I agree.
Honestly, I would vote to put something in, you know, for consideration.
Yeah,
at
She
least.
just agreed with you.
yeah. So you have it? You're,
I'd like to take it off this.
you know what? It's really sad that you're doing all this work.
I mean,
Okay.
generally, any person that works in what is essentially a consulting role,
Mhm.
needs to compete for that position, both on quality and cost.
Mhm.
If you can get the same quality at a lower cost, I think we have an obligation to consider that.
Sure.
Or if you can get a higher quality at the same, not that it would be possible for us to get
Yeah.
higher quality, but,
There's a question.
Yes,
Thank you for bringing this point up. I think that the district's legal position should be evaluated. I think that the district is frequently embroiled in expensive legal conflicts that better legal advice might be able to avoid. And I think that it would be welcome to have legal opinions vary considerably. And I think it would be a benefit to the district to evaluate carefully the quality of advice we've been given.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Also,
put it
for
in there.
The ratepayers.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll put it in, but I have reservations because I've dealt with lawyers lots and I'm not even sure what would go in such an RFP. But we're glad to do it.
yeah, we'll do it
see.
and we'll
Like
see
you
what
were
the board
asking
has.
for the new fire
Well,
chief.
I
well,
bet there's
the value
a
of
dozen board of
That is very.
You have to look at the resume.
for
No, that's not it.
There's district floating around. I bet if you call
We
the
did do it.
CSDA, they would.
I would actually
interview
They have a
Time
use
to
the
time.
services.
forum,
Yeah.
you can review all of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything.
Right, and then the proposers can put in what they think is important.
Yeah,
But that can't be done. You know, there's no reason why you
Yes.
can't do that.
What I could tell, supposed legal counsel is supposed to be present at the meetings.
At the
Am I
board,
correct?
at the board meeting. Yes,
Well, he's not there at the board meetings.
Well, he's-
Well,
he's on
they-
Zoom.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's an acceptable place. for
Yeah,
legal
be heard
counsel to
first.
be- That's what I'm asking here. It doesn't seem to be appropriate for him to get paid whatever he's getting paid per hour and be able to do other things while he's sitting there listening to what's going on. Half the time he has to be asked a question again.
well, he's on a retainer,
He's on a retainer.
right?
I'm not saying that's what, seems to be. He used to be at the meetings all the time.
Oh, yeah, but he went on to Zoom and then he stayed on Zoom because he had.
I know, but
health
we
issues.
came off of Zoom. That's
Well,
my
he's
point.
not.
Well, the-
No, the
Job.
Brown Act doesn't, well, he came off of Zoom because the Brown Act required us to
Right.
do it. But, the lawyer not being a public official,
Yeah,
is not required. That to be in person.
That's right.
That's up to the board.
Right.
Yeah, the board could say we,
Whether
you know.
accept it.
It is up to the board, there would be increase in costs.
exactly.
Yeah,
We don't know that.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there would.
Yeah, you pay us hourly rate.
Yeah.
To
But
commute.
you said it's a
You
retainer.
said he's on a retainer.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
he uses up retainer based on the number
Right.
of hours he works.
Right.
And if he goes over those numbers of hours,
Yeah.
you pay him.
Yeah, so he drives and he charges his rate.
So, yeah, it costs.
Well, that would, that's, I mean, if I've said anything that would be, or if there's been anything that come up that would be a good reason to maybe explore alternatives,
Right.
that would be it. That you're
Right.
paying somebody $300 an hour to
Right.
drive on Highway 1.
That's what attorney, that's why we don't, but
Right.
attorneys charge that.
Actually, that's the price is up now, double 600 now.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an assumption. You haven't handed
Right.
our.
That's fine. I just wanted
I
to.
hired an attorney recently, it was 300.
Yeah,
Well, I just finished with one because it said, I'm charging 6 now, but for you, I'll charge you 4.
Oh,
So.
That's fine. I just wondered how that.
Well,
interpreted.
Yeah. well, we'll put it in the policy and we'll see what the board says. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one thing with that, I think
I-
it was just, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to also do the last red wording that you have where it says and support the standing committees upon request.
Because it's a top. Like, so,
Well, he does support standing committees, but that is when it is requested by the board, so it has to go through the board.
So I mean, we do put standing committees in the first sentence,
Right,
so I thought that was acceptable. We are supposed to be able to get support from them, is my understanding, from legal counsel.
if we do it through the right channels.
I didn't say that. That's my
Yeah.
sort of question.
I mean, he wrote this in, so I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what the police were named there.
Yeah,
Oh, I see, I got it.
See, I mean-
Standing committees here.
yeah, it's
Got it.
the way that it's written in what you suggested, Gordon, was, and support the standing committees upon request. It needs to go through the board to have that happen.
Do you want to strike that or say on request by the board or just strike them?
No, it's just here. Yeah, don't put this here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'll figure this out.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sure
it's
you
gonna be a challenge, okay.
Yes,
Let's find.
Okay. all right. All right, so, we don't need a vote. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a edited copy, at the next meeting. Okay? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Good, appreciate your
Well, I appreciate,
clarifications.
yeah, and I appreciate your suggestions. Okay, review, let's see. 439. Review and discussion and consideration of CSDA policy 1055 legislative advocacy policy. Oh, sorry.
There's another paragraph regarding the auditor down below that. That we didn't discuss.
Oh, we're supposed to do the auditor?
Well,
It says legal counsel and auditor.
you're right.
yeah, we changed already the administrative department manager.
So, yeah, I see that part. I would point out. I would point out that selection of the auditor shall be done in a notice public meeting in at least every 5 years. So with that position, which is similar to the legal counsel, there is a statement that you
Yeah.
can look at the refreshers.
Yes,
And, and have another suggestion.
okay,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
At the end of the last sentence, the general, the administrative manager shall install and maintain the accounting system that will completely and at all times show the financial condition of the district. I would suggest that we consider adding to the end of that sentence, show the financial condition of the district, including total indebtedness and annual debt service.
It does.
You have to dig through those reports and find the loans in like 6 different places.
So,
Okay, so say that again?
I said, the financial condition of the district, including total indebtedness and annual debt service.
as opposed to this.
I mean, when you go through the financial reports, I'm not a super expert on this sort of stuff, but it's almost impossible to figure out how much we owe and how much we're paying every year for what we owe by looking at the reports, because you got to go to 8 different places and sort of add them up. And you have to know where those 8 different places are in the first place. So for me,
Call Denise.
given that we are you shouldn't have, it should be available. The total indebtedness and the total annual debt service should be something that would be of interest to all the ratepayers. I would think. And it'd be nice to have that in one place. I mean, we fought for years to figure out how much we pay and pay every year for the WRF, and I don't think that's ever been figured out. So that's my suggestion.
Okay,
Throwing it out there.
including total indebtedness
And annual debt service,
and total
annual debt
and
service.
total annual debt service. All right. Got it?
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Everybody done with that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So the next one is the legislative advocacy policy.
Yeah, that's something you can do on the next agenda.
Yes, we could do that on the next agenda if that's what you would like.
There's another meeting coming up at 5:30
Oh.
tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Okay, would you like to have that continued?
Sure. Okay, well, I have a comment on it.
Well, it's huge because we don't have anything like that.
We
It's-
don't have
yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that, and the big question is, for what reasons would we need it, and does it make sense for us to have something there, or would that just be something that we address as a situation arose?
Well, maybe we could put that in the policy and say that, should an issue arises, this is what we would do.
And I'm thinking specifically of the meeting we're planning to go to, with this whole wind power thing.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about the looks of this thing.
No,
And this is way beyond that.
that's.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's why I suggested that we
Okay.
continue with this. So, but yeah, that's great.
Then you'll bring what you're,
Well, that's my comment,
okay,
basically on this thing, and then
Yeah.
we can really dissect this thing.
Yeah.
So are we reaching consensus to table?
yes.
Okay, consensus to table.
It's nothing that's.
To table till
Okay.
next meeting.
Yeah, do we have any public comment? No? All right. So, future agenda items, we have, we have, are we going to do an ad hoc committee for commuting? Basically, it's commuting that part 3. Okay, what I'd like to do is I would like to ask the board to direct us to do that. Will you guys, trust me to just send something to you all and we can get it on the agenda. I'll take it to agenda review.
We'll just take to agenda review and we can put it on.
Okay, sound good?
Yes.
Okay, and then if that's the case, then we'll do an ad hoc committee at that point.
Great, okay.
The next thing on future agenda items is gonna be, the final legal counsel review, I'm sure. Okay, it's already on the agenda for the board, so, yeah,
Did a good job with it.
not a
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah, yeah.
not a problem.
It works, yeah.
Anything else? We're waiting. Do we have a timeline as far as the personnel policies?
They are currently finalized and under review by the district council. And then once
They go to the board.
then it goes to the process with the unions. And then it'll go.
So we'll be like,
Here's a big one.
Not that late.
okay,
How big
all
is
right.
it?
So we'll just keep it
Big.
on our.
You can't tell how big it is. Yeah. Beautiful.
Well,
Is he just under, is he not just under the water there?
More policy to change it. We're bringing. Yes.
Oh, he's gorgeous.
I think we have it on the first board
Thank you
meeting
for sharing
agenda
that.
in March.
Okay, so once it's,
I can show you
once
my
the board has
cities.
approved
Very
it, I just want these guys to have a chance to look at it.
Sure.
You're getting older by the day. You're like little wild Indians.
Okay.
I have something for you, don't.
No, the personnel, yeah, yeah. So we're gonna wait until that's, the board has approved it, and then it'll come here only for us so that we know that things are taken care of. Okay,
We like to know.
then we'll just know that things are, yeah. All right, anything else on future agenda items?
Let's see.
So then let's adjourn, so these guys can get going.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.